Picture this. It is 1964. American companies make 94% of every color television sold in the United States. RCA, Zenith, Magnavox, Motorola, giants, household names. And then, in less than 25 years, almost every single one of them is gone. Not struggling, gone. So what happened? Today, I'm going to tell you the full story of how we built the television industry and then watched it get taken away, piece by piece, right under our noses. Back in the years after World War II, the United States had no serious competition in electronics. None. Companies like RCA, which stood for Radio Corporation of America, had spent decades building the technology from scratch. They pioneered the first fully electronic television, and by the mid-1950s they had launched color television to the American public. The company's headquarters in New York City felt like the center of the universe. And for a while, it was. Zenith was right there alongside them. Founded in Chicago, Zenith was beloved for its innovation and its quality. They invented the first wireless television remote control, the Space Command. They were proud, they were American, and their slogan said it all. The quality goes in before the name goes on. By 1960, RCA and Zenith each held more than 20% of the American TV market. Below them were names like Motorola, Admiral, Sylvania, Philco, Magnavox, and at least 25 other American manufacturers. Walk into any living room in the country in 1960, and you would find a TV set built by an American company, assembled by American workers in an American factory. That was simply the way the world worked. And those factories were something to behold. Zenith's operation in Chicago alone employed thousands of workers. RCA had a massive campus in Camden, New Jersey, where engineers and assembly line workers showed up side by side every single day to build the future. These were good, steady, well-paying jobs. The kind of jobs that bought houses and sent kids to college. The television industry was not just a business, it was a backbone of the American middle class. But something was quietly happening on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. And most American executives were not paying close enough attention. In the early 1950s, Japan was still rebuilding from the war. Their electronics industry was practically non-existent. So Japanese manufacturers did something smart. They asked American companies to license their technology to them. And here's the part that will make your jaw drop. Our companies said yes. RCA, General Electric, and Westinghouse all licensed their television technology to Japanese companies in the 1950s. They handed over the blueprints to the future for a small royalty fee. Then in 1962, RCA went even further and licensed its color television technology to Japan as well. At the time, it seemed like a reasonable business decision. It would not feel that way for long. By 1963, Japanese TV manufacturers had formed something called the Television Export Council. On paper, it looked like a trade group. In practice, it functioned as a cartel, coordinating prices and strategies to capture the American market. They protected their home market fiercely, keeping our TVs out of Japan while using the profits from high domestic prices to fund an aggressive push into the United States at artificially low prices. We had taught Japan how to make televisions. Now Japan was using that knowledge to dismantle our industry. What made it even more painful was how deliberate the whole thing was. Japan was not just getting lucky. Their government worked hand in hand with manufacturers to identify target industries, protect them at home, and then flood foreign markets with competitively priced goods. Television was not a coincidence. It was a strategy, and it was executed with a discipline and patience that caught American industry completely off guard. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because it was not just about price. Japan was also winning on quality. And the proof of that came in 1968, when Sony released something called the Trinitron. The Trinitron was a color picture tube unlike anything our manufacturers had ever produced. The color was sharper, the brightness was superior. The image was simply better. American companies could not match it, and consumers noticed. Sony did not stumble onto the Trinitron by accident either. The company's founder, Masaru Ibuka, had visited the United States in the early 1950s and come home determined to build something that could compete with the best in the world. Sony invested heavily in research and engineering for years before that breakthrough arrived. They were patient, they were focused, and when the Trinitron hit store shelves, it changed everything. American families who had grown up with RCA and Zenith in their living rooms started walking into stores and choosing Sony instead. Before long, repair technicians across the country were telling their customers a quiet truth. American-made color televisions were breaking down 5 times more often than Japanese models. 5 times. That number alone tells you everything you need to know about where this story was heading. The dominoes started to fall one by one. In 1974, Motorola sold its entire Quasar television division to Matsushita, the Japanese company you know today as Panasonic. Motorola had decided its future was in semiconductors and two-way radio, not TVs. So they walked away. Philco was sold to Ford Motor Company, which had no idea what to do with it and eventually let it die. Admiral was sold off to Rockwell. The proud names that had filled our living rooms for decades were being passed around like unwanted furniture at an estate sale. Meanwhile, the workers were the ones paying the real price. Every time a plant closed or a division got sold off, thousands of people lost the jobs they had counted on for decades. These were skilled workers, people who knew how to build things with their hands, who took pride in what they made. And one by one, those jobs disappeared. The communities built around those factories started to hollow out. By 1975, American companies held only 67% of the U.S. color TV market. That sounds like a majority, but 10 years earlier, it had been nearly 100%. The direction was unmistakable. By 1987, our manufacturers held just 17% of their own market. Japan had 42%. Think about that. In just 23 years, we went from owning 94% of our TV market to 17%. Zenith and RCA fought back harder than most. Zenith filed massive lawsuits against the Japanese manufacturers in the 1970s, accusing them of anti-dumping violations and antitrust conspiracies. They argued that Japan was deliberately selling TVs in America below their actual cost, a practice called dumping, to drive our companies out of business. The case eventually made it all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And in 1986, the court ruled in favor of the Japanese manufacturers. The lawsuit was over. The legal road was closed. That same year, RCA, the company that had started it all, was sold to General Electric, who then turned around and sold the consumer electronics division to Thomson, a French company. The name that had been synonymous with American television for half a century was now owned by Europe. That left Zenith, the last American TV manufacturer still standing. Their giant factory in Springfield, Missouri, covered an area the size of 29 football fields and employed 1,750 people. It was a source of pride for the entire city. Zenith had survived longer than anyone else because of its reputation for quality and its willingness to fight. They had spent millions on lawsuits. They had kept innovating. They had held on with everything they had. But even Zenith was bleeding. In October of 1991, the company announced it was closing the Springfield plant and moving production to Mexico. And in 1992, the last American-made television rolled off the last American assembly line. The industry that we had built from nothing, the industry that had put a glowing screen in every living room from Maine to California, was over. Zenith filed for bankruptcy in 1999. So why did it really happen? It was not any single thing. It was our companies getting complacent after decades on top. It was the short-sighted decision to license core technology to Japan in the 1950s and early 1960s. It was Japan's disciplined, coordinated strategy to capture our market. It was the Sony Trinitron making American picture quality look second-rate. And it was a slow, painful failure by Washington to protect an industry they did not fully understand we were losing, until it was already gone. While the legal cases dragged on for years, the market kept shifting. By the time anyone in Washington fully grasped the scale of what was happening, there was almost nothing left to save. The men who built those TVs in Springfield and Chicago and Camden, New Jersey, did not lose because they were not good enough. They lost because the game changed around them faster than anyone was willing to admit. And the lesson of that story still echoes today in industries far beyond television. If this story hits close to home for you, we would love to hear about it in the comments. Did you own an RCA or a Zenith back in the day? Tell us about it below. And if you want to see more stories like this one about the factories, the companies, and the industries that made this country, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We have got a lot more coming, and you do not want to miss it.